It was a time of searing confidence. The ancestors of modern Michiganders inundated the state of Michigan after its founding in 1837. They came exploiting its resources and building new communities. In this video, we'll see their architectural remnants using footage I took myself, sometimes from places where I didn't feel entirely safe. This is the story of the golden age of Michigan. Some of the first resources to draw outsiders were Michigan's forests. Early in the 19th century, the state's vast pine forests seemed practically limitless. But after the Civil War, America's insatiable hunger for lumber threatened the purity of the ancient landscape of Michigan. The system of extracting lumber spread across the state. First, wealthy lumber barons acquired tracts of pine land, chosen for them by scouts known as timber cruisers. Then, seasonal laborers set to the dangerous work of harvesting trees. They lived in dark bunkhouses and worked through the coldest months, though fortunately there were diversions like traveling preachers and pancakes. Logging spread west and north, creating many of Michigan's cities. The Grand River supplied logs to Grand Rapids' flourishing mills. Muskegon rose as the West Coast's top sawmill city, with other key sites throughout the state. As logging expanded into the 19th century, wealth flowed into these timber cities. The French chateau-style historic post office represents Saginaw's glory days. Lumber barons and mill owners amassed tremendous fortunes. In Muskegon, Charles Hackley used his timber fortune to fund hospitals, parks, and churches. Hackley and his business partner, Thomas Hume, built two stunning Queen Anne-style homes as symbols of their success. Lumber barons steadily upscaled operations without a thought to the environmental impact. Animal habitats vanished, and all the dried-out remnants of logging formed miles of great tinder. On the dry and windy conditions of October 8, 1871, over 1 million acres ignited, at the same time that Chicago was also burning down. As nearby pine depleted, Grand Rapids shifted to using the hardwood trees that remained for the production of furniture. Lumber barons reinvested their fortunes to develop new industries. It was lumber money that would launch Henry Ford in the car-making business. In the early days of pine harvesting, logs drifted downriver to the mills, but a new age of transportation was dawning. Steam-powered locomotives debuted in Michigan in 1837 on the Erie and Kalamazoo Railroad to Toledo, though not everyone was pleased. Some viewed the speed of trains as unnatural for human biology. Cattle-owning farmers accused trains of running into livestock. Railroad companies responded saying that any reasonable agile cow should be able to evade a locomotive. Dismissed in this way, farmers in the south of Michigan hinted at their dissatisfaction with a campaign of sabotage. They vandalized tracks, opened fire on passing trains, and burned Michigan Central Depot to the ground. Most sinisterly, they greased rails, preventing trains from climbing uphill. The railroad companies decided to settle, agreeing to pay half the cost of any slain livestock. unhindered by cattlemen rebellions, Michigan was now free to build over 2,500 miles of track by the 1850s, spurring towns like Traverse City. The far northwest of Michigan was at first not seen by early Michiganders as a valuable part of the state. This picture changed in 1841 when celebrity geologist Douglas Houghton confirmed vast copper deposits on the Keweenaw Peninsula. Tragically, Houghton drowned in Lake Superior at just 36 years old, never to witness the copper boom he helped to ignite. Drawing even more attention was a dispute over possession of a 2-ton copper boulder. The boulder was removed from its revered site in 1843 with great effort by Julius Eldred, a hardware salesman who wanted to sell tickets to show it off in a traveling exhibition. When he brought it to Detroit, however, the government confiscated the boulder and brought it to the Smithsonian. The publicized legal battle that followed helped bring the mineral wealth of the copper country to national attention, and the copper rush was on. The first miners came with mere picks and shovels, but soon heavily equipped Eastern mining companies took over. Near Houghton, Michigan, the Quincy mine became the single most famous mining operation in Michigan. It started slowly, taking over a decade to make any profit after its opening in 1848. Over time, though, it produced tremendous value in copper, leading to its nickname, Old Reliable. Its number 2 shaft reached a record-breaking 2 miles in length. By 1870, Michigan's mines produced over 90% of U.S. copper. Mining towns like Houghton and Calumet flourished, attracting immigrants who needed work. Cornish miners brought their skills to the Upper Peninsula, along with their traditional pasty, a hearty meat-filled pastry that's still sold today throughout Upper Michigan. Copper mining Slovenian immigrants established St. Joseph, now St. Paul the Apostle, in Calumet. Michigan also became the nation's leading producer of iron ore. On the shores of Lake Michigan, Fayette's blast furnaces once processed iron ore into pig iron, and the site remains as a picturesque ghost town. Shipping heavy cargo out of the Upper Peninsula, though, posed a problem, due to the 22-foot drop in elevation from Lake Superior to Lake Huron at Sault Ste. Marie. At the cost of $40 billion in today's dollars, the completion of the Soo Locks in 1855 enabled direct passage of ships. Marquette, Michigan was then free to develop as a major iron shipping port and the largest city of the Upper Peninsula. Mining brought to northern Michigan the joys of modern civilization, like hockey stadiums and colleges. The Michigan School of Mines in Houghton, now Michigan Tech, kept engineers up to date with the latest technology. Tucked away at the base of the Keweenaw Peninsula, the Shrine of Bishop Baraga stands watch over Lands Bay. In 1833, Frederick Baraga came to the wilderness of northern Michigan from his upper-class lifestyle in Slovenia to be a missionary to the Ojibwe people. While the government was pressuring the Ojibwe to give up their culture or move across the Mississippi, Father Baraga helped preserve their language and secured land at Keweenaw Bay where the Ojibwe could remain. In 1840, Father Baraga began ministering to the diverse immigrant population moving to the Upper Peninsula. He was uniquely gifted for the task, being fluent in 8 languages and having legendary discipline. He rose daily at 3 a.m. to spend 2 hours in prayer, lamenting it a great spiritual misfortune when he once slept in till 5 a.m. Braving the fleecy northern winters, he traveled hundreds of miles on snowshoe treks to reach his parishioners and strengthen Christianity in Michigan. Ordained as a bishop over the entire Upper Peninsula, Baraga laid the cornerstone for a cathedral in Marquette. The church was completely rebuilt after a fire in 1879 and extensively renovated after a fire in 1935. By the mid-19th century, Michigan was booming with job opportunities, attracting huge numbers of immigrants from the East Coast and Europe. By 1900, its population surged to 2.4 million, nearly a quarter of whom were first-generation immigrants. The largest immigrant nationality, Germans were known for their industriousness and focus on education, family, and religion. Modeled after Gothic churches in Germany, St. Joseph Oratory was the tallest building in Detroit when it opened in 1873. Bavarian Lutheran missionaries founded Frankenmuth in 1845. The town continues to celebrate its German heritage, drawing tourists with its Bavarian-themed buildings, foods, and festivals. Like the Puritans of old, the earliest Dutch settlers in Michigan had come to America to preserve an uncompromising Calvinist church. The Dutch established towns like Grand Rapids and Holland. Although Holland is famous for its fields of tulips, I was there in the fall, so sadly this footage is out of peak season. After 1890, waves of Catholics arrived from Italy and Poland. Grand Rapids Basilica of St. Adalbert reflects the presence of German-speaking Poles. Named for a medieval missionary to Poland, it features stained glass windows of Polish saints. Michigan's industries made many people rich, and the state was happy to cater to their desires for summer getaways. Mackinac Island was a choice vacation spot early on, but its fame reached new heights when an alliance of railroad and steamship companies unveiled the Grand Hotel, a Victorian dream resort that helps give the island a fascinating blend of luxury and quaintness. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan drew adventurers looking to soak in all the beauty of its forests, rivers, and Lake Superior shoreline. Battle Creek, Michigan built a different kind of destination, the Battle Creek Sanitarium, a wellness resort. Based on the prophetic visions of Adventist co-founder Ellen White, the sanitarium's health protocols were ahead of their time. Sanitarium director John Harvey Kellogg taught the benefits of yogurt enemas and vegetarianism. Kellogg's goal to make vegetarian diets more accessible led to his invention of cereal flakes. And his marketing genius brother, Will Keith Kellogg, turned the cornflake into a global phenomenon. Despite a bitter end to their partnership, Will Kellogg built his company into the largest breakfast cereal producer in the world. C.W. Post started his own cereal empire just down the road. His charismatic salesmanship was so powerful, he successfully marketed Postum, a cereal coffee without the coffee. Representing another kind of health institution, the Northern Michigan Asylum became Traverse City's largest employer. Its remarkable Italianate stylings reflected the belief that beauty could promote mental healing for its patients. The last 2 decades of the 19th century were the glory days of the Victorian era, an exciting time of urban growth and extraordinary innovation. Detroit's growing prestige was put on display in 1889 when it hosted the Detroit International Exposition. The palatial exhibit hall, while magnificent, was built out of wood and sadly never intended to be a permanent structure. But even at this point, Detroit's age of industry was just revving up. Cars were once seen as a luxury toy for the wealthy, like modern-day yachts, but were made affordable to most families thanks to Michigan inventors Ransom Olds and Henry Ford. Ford's efficient assembly line cut costs and allowed him to offer radically high pay. The Model T became the car in America, especially loved by farmers for its durability. General Motors' consolidation of brands like Buick, Cadillac, and Chevrolet created a local powerhouse rival to Ford. Michigan was perfectly placed to bring together the resources needed for car manufacturing, helping it to gain a near monopoly on the early automotive industry and sealing Detroit's status as Motor City. As a sign of soaring wealth, amazing architecture rose to adorn the city in the early 20th century. One Catholic congregation on the northern limits of Detroit went from meeting in an abandoned shoe factory to a neo-Gothic cathedral in just 10 years. More recently, Michigan has reclaimed much of its forested glory. Tourism is as strong as ever. Detroit launched cultural innovations such as Motown music and Detroit-style pizza. And the Lions? Well, never mind. Michigan's history is a tale of booms and busts, innovations, community building, and self-sacrifice. Its incredible blending of cultures is still visible across the resplendent landscape of Michigan.